Well, NFL free agency is here and it's off to a very bonker start. Every big name who's a free agent, I swear, is going everywhere except where they were just coming from. The Bucks have made some very interesting moves with this at the get-go. Let's start with that. So, as we get into this, Baker now has another deal. The Bucks have traded off a cornerback, and they have also extended their kicker. Those are Baker Mayfield at quarterback, Carlton Davis, the cornerback who was shipped off to Detroit, along with two six-rounders for a third-round pick, and then a 3-year deal worth, if I got correct, $12 million for Chase McLaughlin. The Bucks have been active. They're moving cap space. They're giving out a good amount of guaranteed money. I'm talking Baker, not McLaughlin. I'm going to start with the kicker just to say the fact that if it had been me, I would have gone year to year just because kickers are so unpredictable, especially in the history of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I don't hate it just because I'm sure based on the structure of the deal, if it's not working out, wipe your hands clean, he's gone. I do like the Carlton Davis deal. I'm sure we both have our thoughts on the Baker Mayfield deal. We've talked about it quite a bit ahead of this episode.
Yeah.
So let's just jump into it and talk Baker. We've been waiting for it. Let's just do it.
All right. So obviously Baker Mayfield, 3-year deal for the Bucks. My instant reaction was kind of like a groan, where it's like, well, at least it's not 5. And you look at the amount of guaranteed money, you look at what the deal is, and it's like 50 million guaranteed, and it's like a north of $100 million over 3 years. And you instantly think, well, maybe we think we gave him too much money, and then you sleep on it, you wake up the next day, and you find out that the Falcons have paid Kirk Cousins so much more money and over a longer period of time, where it's like, you know what? I think it's not going to be too bad for the Bucks. Granted, Kirk Cousins, I'm more of a Kirk Cousins guy than a Mayfield guy, but still, that was a lot of money the Falcons handed out there.
Well, Kirk
They
Cousins has also proven himself a little bit more in Baker Mayfield, has he
Right.
not?
Yeah, no, he has, like, to that point. And that makes the Falcons probably the front runners now in the NFC South to win that division for this upcoming season. Now that they got a quarterback, they're changing the guard at head coach. So obviously Baker now back to Baker Mayfield, 3-year deal. Honestly, at the end of the day, for the Bucks, as long as this doesn't run into situations where down the line where it's like, oh well, we can't afford to extend Tristan Wirfs, or we can't afford to extend Antoine Winfield or some of these younger star players. As long as it doesn't, as long as this Mayfield contract doesn't inhibit Tampa or stop Tampa from extending these other players, ultimately I'll be cool with it, because again, it's a 3-year deal. It's not like a 4 or 5-year deal. So this year Tampa has a very tough schedule. So let's just say things go sideways. Then it's at least it's like, okay, there's 2 years left, and it's you don't feel too trapped, because even if you have to move off of them for whatever reason, like, yeah, you're going to be taking on some dead money. But then, I mean, you can at least put yourself in a situation where it's like, well, at least you're not the Denver Broncos today that, oh, Russell Wilson, just an incredible amount, a record-setting amount of dead money over the next couple of years. So I think ultimately, I think at the end of the day, the deal is fine, and Baker Mayfield is going to remain a Tampa Bay Buck, and still, at least for me, I think he's got a lot to prove, and it will be interesting to see how this new season unfolds.
It'll definitely be interesting to see. And I kind of thought about too, yeah, it's a short-term deal. Also makes you wonder, and I get it too, like Baker did just win a playoff game for them. Obviously earned at least a second season with the team. Could have gone year to year. But also I'm looking at the draft, thinking of just like how quickly quarterbacks could go. And if you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and you're looking at, and I have Tankathon in front of me as I talk about this because I want to just have like an idea as we went along. For example, they have the first 3 picks being quarterbacks: Caleb Williams, Jane Daniels, Drake May. They're gone immediately. I've heard things about how Michael Penix Jr. could be gone before the top 15. He's not in this mock draft, but he's certainly up for discussion, especially after the combine and how he took Washington to the national championship. You also have to wonder if they would want to take a flyer on McCarthy from Michigan. They're just weighing all their available options and probably figured extending Baker for a few years, even if they cut him after 2, might just be the best option for the near future. They clearly are not that sold on Kyle Trask anymore, even though having him as a backup quarterback is still not a terrible option. Think of the backup quarterbacks out there. They could have Nathan Peterman or someone else that is certainly not as effective. And for the record, I know in the earlier podcast episodes, I was big on Trask going into last season. I've completely conceded that whole thing. But that being said, when you look at the whole situation, it is very clear that having Baker for 2-3 years is the best when it comes to having at least the best option when it comes to taking a gamble on potentially having another season like that. Maybe he takes another step forward under Liam Cohen. You have no idea. You'll find out. From what I've read, Baker did have a say in the hiring of any offensive coordinator. So he was already clearly part of at least the next few years to begin with. If you have a player helping pick who is best, who might bring in a system that is best for him, or else you wouldn't really care. You'd think about who would fit based on who you might draft. So look, give Baker give the 2-3 years. If it doesn't work out, some big prospect will come along. They always do. It's not like a generational talent drought's going to happen. We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned it too, Baker Mayfield having a say in the new offensive coordinator. That's another thing to factor in this situation. He's going to have to learn a new offense along with Mike Evans, but hey, he's done that a number of times before. Mike Evans learning from a lot of different coordinators throughout his tenure with the Bucs, and every year it seems that he's still going to get those 1,000 yards. So,
yes, but
yeah,
also keep in mind it's a bit different for a wide receiver than a quarterback, but I
yeah,
also get your points.
yeah, and it's like, and ultimately there, I mean, it'll be another interesting season. And again, it's day one. Like when we're recording this, it's day one of free agency. The legal tampering period is obviously begun, and nothing becomes official for a couple more days. But obviously, a lot of moves have been made around the league. Some of the big ones, Harrison, a big divisional switch up with Saquon Barkley, the New York Giants star running back. So free agent goes to the Philadelphia Eagles, prompting some I would actually say some backlash from some notable people out there. There was one with former Giants running back Tiki Barber. He said, I quote, "You're dead to me," and Saquon responded. So the feud is on, and now Saquon's a member of the Philadelphia Eagles. So that was one of the big moves today. The Giants adding Brian Burns via a trade. When you look at the Carolina Panthers situation and how things have kind of unfolded for them in the past couple of years, having first round draft picks such as DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey, and now Brian Burns all out the door before age 26. I don't know, Harrison. It seems to me that the Panthers probably need one of those plaques on the wall in the locker room that maybe says patience or something along those lines, because it kind of seems like they just haven't been able to figure those things out there as well. But yeah, those are a few of the main highlights. Obviously, Russell Wilson, quarterback now for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So those are just some of the few big moves that we've been seeing over the past 24 to 36 hours, and we fully expect there to be a lot more. But Harrison, I'm going to bring it back here to Tampa because we talked about Baker and we've talked about some of the few other moves the Buccaneers have made. Antoine Winfield Jr. is obviously on the franchise tag right now, and there's still time for them to negotiate a long-term deal. Do you think Tampa learned their lesson from last season where they decided they weren't going to extend Mike Evans then? And it was a prove it year. Mike Evans was like, all right, hold my beer and watch me do it again. And now they had to pay him what they had to pay him. They have an opportunity here to extend Antoine Winfield Jr. Do you think they're going to learn their lesson from last year and avoid the same situation where, let's say, now Winfield plays on this 1 year goes off again, which I fully expect he will if he stays healthy, then he's going to then you're going to have to pay him more down the line the next offseason.
And as we talk about this, I just want to have the cap situation for next season in front of me, just to have the full analysis. Look, I get he's franchise tagged. That doesn't mean he's going to play under the franchise tag next season. I know I'm saying this thing that's kind of obvious here, but that kind of has to be restated because a lot of people will see that he was tagged and overreact and say, well, the Bucks have tagged him. Let's just see if they end up keeping him. Just because he's tagged doesn't, they can still figure out an extension before later this summer. They tag him so that just in case he is tagged for next year. I like to think the Bucks will want to get this figured out before the season. The whole Mike Evans ordeal was such a headache for everyone involved, whether it was the player himself, the teams themselves, anyone watching the ordeal, wondering if they would pay him. I know it's a bit different because Winfield's only been around a few years, whereas Evans is going to have now been around over a decade. It's a bit different, but also Winfield, his ceiling is to be one of those top franchise players all time, like among the ranks of a John Lynch or a Rondé or a Derek Brooks. I know I'm listing different defensive positions outside of Lynch, but you also understand where I'm going with that. He's going to be part of that historic Bucks defensive class. And while I know I have listed a couple of guys who, or sorry, only one of the guys I listed did eventually leave and play for another team at some point. Barber and Brooks did not, Lynch did. Winfield can be one of the guys who is a career player, be an impactful player from start to finish. He just got an all-pro honor for the first time in his career just this most recent season, reflecting the talent that most Bucks fans have been aware of for a few years now. Maybe they think it's worth it to see what the cap situation is in a year and bite the bullet on paying him a little bit more. Maybe if it means avoiding having to have another issue down the line, maybe even having a longer deal than Evans. I can totally, well, I like to think Winfield would be up for a longer contract than Mike Evans because he's that much younger, a whole 5, 6 years fewer in the league, longer leash before he retires. I wish I had an answer for you. I wish I could just say, oh yeah, the Bucks haven't. They totally have. It's clearly leaning maybe they haven't because they tagged Winfield and haven't figured something out already. But I also feel like that's jumping the gun because they tagged him as a just in case, not because that's the plan for this season.
Yeah, and I think that it is also good to note that it is a non-exclusive franchise tag on Antoine Winfield. So this process could be sped up very quickly here if another team decides, hey, we want to offer him X amount of money. Then that would leave the Bucks with two options: either to match that contract offer to retain him, or let him go to the team that offered him the highest amount of money that they are not willing to match, and in return receive two first-round picks for him as well. So this also can be predicated on what other teams, what the market is possibly if other teams want to try to acquire him as well. If that might force Tampa's hand to actually, if they really want to keep Antoine Winfield Jr. for the long haul, extend him this offseason.
And that's a good point too with the non-exclusive tag. What, like, if you personally, Josh, if you get the call that finding out that Antoine Winfield has been offered by another team, do you just look at the two first round picks and say, hey, maybe you can turn these into two elite safeties? Or do you look at obviously and you just match the contract, call it a day, and you keep the proven talents? I'm saying this in a rhetorical way to show that that's a pretty easy call. you keep the proven talents.
Yeah, I would agree. And obviously he's also one of my favorites, even like so if I even threw the bias in there, he's already like one of my favorite defensive players that's played for the Buccaneers, and they've had a lot of great ones come through. So he's a great leader back there. And I just hope that while everyone else over the past couple of days was wondering what the Bucs were going to do with Mayfield, I've just been thinking about, all right, how can we get Antoine Winfield to be a Buccaneer for 4 or 5 more years?
Believe me, I'm in the same boat as you. And look, not that I haven't been thinking about Baker. We have been. We're not going to pretend we haven't. But you got to know who are the priority guys. And I get it also. They signed the quarterback. In the modern day, there is no more important position than your quarterback. But you can also make the argument that maybe for that same reason, they could have offered a different deal to Baker Mayfield or gone after a different quarterback while also protecting one of the only genuinely good player in the defensive backfield. Like really, after Winfield, it just falls off. Like, no offense to Jamal Dean or Carlton Davis, who got traded. We haven't even gotten to that yet, by the way.
Yeah. And Harrison, I have some breaking news for you. We got some Buccaneer breaking news, and
Oh,
we also have we have some Buccaneer breaking news, and we have some other breaking news around the league. So for Bucks fans and Gator fans, the Bucks are going to be re-signing. They're going to be re-signing free agent running back Chase Edmonds to a 1-year deal. So underneath Rachaad White, Tampa's going to be bringing him back. This was just as of like 3 minutes ago per Schefter. And then, of course, the other one, if you're a Gator fan, Tommy Townsend, former Chiefs punter, is now going to Houston on a 2-year deal. So the moves keep coming. They've been coming all day long for the opening day of free agency. It's been pretty hectic.
for like a very split second, I thought you were about to say Tommy Townsend's going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I was just gonna be like, no way. Nah, that's just that's. But great pickup by the Texans, by the way.
Yeah.
He's one of
Yeah.
the best legs in the NFL. We both got to watch this guy at Florida, and there's a reason why he's a great addition. And
Yeah. I
also
mean,
with Jonathan Grenard on the way out, they at least swap a Gator for a Gator.
yeah, and yep, they did, and that's why I thought those were both. And there was obviously a ton more, but those were obviously I felt pretty relevant to break because obviously Gator fans that listen in, Bucks fans as well. So Bucks got to they're running back behind Rachaad White at least for a season there to see what he can do, and of course Tommy Townsend has been pretty much elite in like every game that he's played in college and in the NFL, with the exception of Super Bowl 55, which we're totally okay with that. He was taking one for all Gator fans that root for the Bucks that day.
Sometimes someone just has to take one for the team, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Edmonds signing, I like it. He had a solid year last year being the second running back. I think adding just another year, seeing if it works again, totally fine. There's no reason to go long term, even on really on any running back, even if like Rachaad White's still on his rookie deal, correct?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yes.
And again, like to the 1 year, I'm a fan of 1 year deals for any players that I'm not sure about. Like I'm fine taking flyers on on players and seeing what they can do for a season, and then hey, if it works out, then you have the opportunity to retain them. So
Yeah.
that's always a fan of. I'm always a fan of those 1 year contracts for unproven players or players we want to see if they can possibly be revitalized.
Plus, you also have the argument of after a year, they want more money than you're willing to give them. You can say bye bye.
There you go, and that's the beauty of flexibility there with with any team when it comes to those 1 year contracts. And but again, this is just day one. I mean, we got a long way to go
That's the
with.
thing. This is just day one. There's
Yeah,
been a lot in just one day. Not that the NFL doesn't do this every single year. It has one of the best day ones of free agency in North American sports, or maybe just all sports, just because a lot of international sports don't have the same concept of free agency as they do in like the NFL, NHL, MLB, NBA. Great start though.
yeah, totally great start. It kind of seems like all the moves that Tampa is making right now it kind of seems like they're getting these guys even at a discount. So like, I mean, you looked at another one of those big moves around the league. Obviously, Kansas City paid a whole bunch of money to Chris Jones, and obviously the Raiders just paid a whole bunch to the one I mentioned earlier with Christian Wilkins. It makes the Vita Vea contract look really good right now. The
Hey,
Tampa,
you talk the Raiders. Don't disrespect the fact that they have also signed Gardner Minshew.
which
Minshew Mania is going to Vegas.
which in turn just to clarify, because Minshew was leaving the Indianapolis Colts, which means it's without a doubt the Anthony Richardson show. Let him stay healthy.
Okay,
As
but like it was going to be the Anthony
long
Richardson
as he
show had
stays
he been
healthy.
healthy.
That shows they have confidence that he'll be ready to go for week one,
Well,
with
that's
all these.
true.
So it's like it's a good it's them, having belief in him as the quarterback, and the sky's the limit for the Colts as well. So I think that's another a big possible move there as well. And obviously the moves just keep on rolling in.
That just let me to go just check. What is the quarterback? Oh, no, it still says Gardner Minshew on their website, so it's not up to date. It says Sam Ellinger though, for what it's worth.
Texas guy. The Texas We're Back quarterback from the
Yes. Maybe they'll go with another big name. Maybe they'll get maybe like a Colt McCoy. I don't even know if he's still in the league, but that'd be very funny. Just get some meme name at this point to replace Gardner Minshew.
I mean, I don't even necessarily think they necessarily have to. I mean, if they want another
They don't
insurance,
necessarily have to get a meme quarterback. I mean, obviously not, but
right? Like, I mean, if they really needed another guy, just use like a fifth or sixth rounder. I mean, for if you're the Colts in this upcoming draft, because that's another thing. There's so many like instant overreactions on Twitter from like certain transactions that have happened. Like, there were some people I saw on Twitter complaining about the Bucks moving off Carlton Davis. I'm like, we haven't even had the draft yet. Like, there's
I mean, it's
it's
pretty clear they're going for a corner. Oh yeah, we can finally talk about Carlton Davis. We haven't gotten there yet.
and it's like,
But they can totally go for a guy in the draft. I think at this point, $14 million cap hit, farewell. Good riddance. For
thanks
someone,
for what you did.
again,
Thanks for
yeah, for a position that's really one of the weaker ones on the Buccaneers,
it's the worst. You don't have to hold back. It's abysmal.
it's not good at all. Going
Oh,
like Carlton Davis is a great depth piece. Is
yes, yeah.
not a starting cornerback, let alone 14 million a year. For the Lions, great pickup just for the cost of a third round pick. That I will say is a pretty solid trade overall. You add depth to the secondary on one team. The Bucks get a day two draft pick. They can go get another player on defense, get a corner. Well, they can go get a cornerback in the first round if they really want to, though maybe on offensive tackle might make more sense with Baker Mayfield under center for 3 more years. That's another depleted area besides Tristan Wirfs at this point as the offensive line. But we could talk about that for another 30 minutes if we really wanted to.
Yeah,
It just comes down at that point to who's on the board. Like if some big cornerback that wasn't supposed to be there, maybe you go for him then. But
I've heard the Kool-Aid McKinstry rumors. Obviously, he's got the fractured foot to deal with right now, so he's got to be rehab. He's going through rehab there. Right now, as it stands today, the Buccaneers cornerback rotation is D. Delaney, Jamel Dean, and Zion McCollum. So yes, Tampa's not done back there. They're going to make changes. They are overhauling this DB room as they should. We are also hearing maybe some rumors possibly of a Jordan Whitehead reunion, which I would sign me up.
I wouldn't be upset with that either if it's at the right price.
Hey, sign me up. I'm a big fan of what he's able to do. Especially him being a part of that Super Bowl team. A hard hitting safety he is, and I thought he had a pretty good year with the Jets. So yeah, if there's a way that he can come back, that would be a great possible acquisition there. But again, it's day one. The Bucks aren't done, so everyone that's freaking out about the secondary, they understand what they have back there, and they're not done working at that.
Huh. Okay, I just want to pull up one mock draft. Decided to go look. One of them shows like an edge. That makes actually I can buy into that. But here's one that I find interesting. I just pull up CBS Sports. It's Ryan Wilson. updated 6 days ago. Still, not the point. They have the Bucks taking Keon Coleman out of Florida State. I feel like, okay, yeah, this had to have been done before Mike Evans was re-signed because that just doesn't make sense otherwise. That's not the wide receiver position is not something that I would say is the most pressing for the first round. You want to go get a guy like end of day 2, maybe beginning of day 3, just add some depth. I'd be fine with that. But as great as Coleman's going to be, I do think he could be a great talent in the NFL. That's not what I think the Bucks should prioritize. Let's go back to that.
Everybody thinks the Bucks need to draft a receiver. Like this class is so deep, and it's like you can just grab one in like the fourth round. Like
Exactly. Because not everyone's going to take the same positions. Like, there's going to be the run on quarterbacks in the first 15 picks. And then it's just based on need of who's the best.
let me quickly pivot too, because we've talked about there's all these discussions like every year it seems like of who's the best receiving tandem in the league. And like a couple years ago, it was Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and now we're hearing Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, or whatever. But like now T. Higgins wants to trade. Tampa Bay has two guys that are total pros, that are total class acts. It's one thing to find one receiver like that, like Mike Evans. They have two. Chris
It's
Godwin
Chris Godwin. And the thing
following
about,
that.
and look, I get it with Evans. He's never going to have the flashiest plays, but the man's the most consistent wide receiver.
And he's not a headache, and he's not an off the
No,
field issue, and he's a leader.
actually,
And
he's amazing off the field. He does stuff for the Boys and Girls Club, and he's been a nominee for the Walter Payton Man of the Year several times.
yeah, I mean, we got two. Like the idea that we need receivers, please. We got two. We got two of the most. We got. I couldn't be happier with the receiving core that we have right now. I really couldn't.
I got zero complaints with what this team's got. Go get the best offensive lineman on the board. Allow Baker to create plays where he can throw the ball deep to these wide receivers because crazy deep ball to Mike Evans works really well. Who would have thought? We saw that in that one game they actually tried it in Brady's last season against Carolina. Boom, half of his touchdowns came in the last game of the regular season.
Yep.
Sorry, second to last game of the regular season. They played the Falcons the week after.
Get him an offensive lineman. Go get a defensive back. We'll be rolling. We'll be right in the thick of the NFC South race.
They certainly will be, but until then, day 1 of NFL free agency is a wrap. Say that again.
It continues, but it's a wrap for us.
For us, you're right. As a publishing, or sorry, at the recording of this episode, it's not even midnight yet. So yeah, there's on the East Coast. So it's not going to be over in our time zone for about 3 more hours, but our discussion of day 1 has concluded. Just to avoid the fact error from Mr. Josh right here. I don't want my -50 in reporting.
I have to lose the goatee for that one. That's all I goes.
So what do I do to show up with half a goatee? No, I'm not even going to put an idea in your head. Anyway, that's a wrap, folks. More football talk to come. Until then, I'm Harrison. That's Josh. We will see you next time.